Some people don't fall in love with you. They fall into you like they've stumbled into a reality they weren't spiritually trained for. From the moment you show up, something shifts in the atmosphere, and people feel it before they even understand it. Your presence doesn't glide into a room. It rearranges it. You walk in, and suddenly conversations sharpen, energy recalibrates, and people who were previously minding their business start acting like they just inhaled emotional Wi-Fi. And the funniest part, you don't even try. You're just over there existing, maybe checking your phone, maybe thinking about food. And meanwhile, someone across the room is having a full internal crisis like, why do I feel like I've known them in 8 different lifetimes? Here's the part that keeps people whispering about you behind your back, and sometimes boldly in group chats. Your energy doesn't just attract, it imprints. Psychology has a known phenomenon called the emotional afterglow, a state where someone continues to feel elevated, stimulated, or strangely comforted long after interacting with a specific person. Most people trigger this effect accidentally, but you trigger it naturally, consistently, effortlessly. You're like a spiritual echo that follows people home, the kind that keeps them pacing in their kitchen, replaying every moment with you as if trying to decode a secret message. And the wild truth is this: your energy hits people in the places they've carefully avoided, the places they've numbed, the places they've buried under routine, noise, and pretending to be fine. So when you walk in, it's not just attraction, it's activation. It's the sudden awakening of emotional circuits they didn't even know they had. That's why people talk about being in love with you, even when nothing happened. That's why your name keeps resurfacing in conversations you didn't start. That's why people stare at you like you walked straight out of their dreams and onto their timeline. Your energy is addictive, not because it's pretty, peaceful, or perfect, but because it's potent. It rearranges people. It wakes up their suppressed intuition. It makes them feel spiritually caffeinated in a world that's running on emotional sleep mode. And sure, you may think you're just doing your thing, living your life, minding your business, but according to the collective testimony of everyone around you, you're the walking plot twist they didn't see coming and can't stop talking about. Number 1. People aren't just attracted to you. They're addicted to the way you make them feel about themselves. People talk about being in love with you, but the truth goes deeper than romance or physical attraction. What they really fall for is the way their inner world lights up when they're around you. Most people walk through life feeling unseen, misunderstood, or emotionally disconnected. Then they meet you, and something in them switches back on. You don't feed their ego. You awaken their humanity. That awakening quickly becomes addictive, because it's not something they've experienced often, if ever. When someone stands in your presence, they feel a version of themselves they forgot was possible. Their confidence rises a little. Their clarity sharpens. Their emotions feel less messy and more meaningful. It's like their spirit finally exhales after holding its breath for years. Not because you're doing anything grand, but because your energy naturally creates a sense of inner alignment for them. They feel more connected to their own thoughts, more truthful with themselves, and more aware of what they're capable of. It's that feeling, that internal upgrade, that pulls them back toward you again and again. People don't talk about you because they're fascinated by you alone. They talk because interacting with you becomes a landmark moment in their emotional life. Something shifts inside them, and they don't want it to disappear. They start revisiting conversations, replaying your words, and hanging on to the subtle ways you saw them clearly. They're not trying to obsess. Their mind just keeps returning to the place they felt the most alive. What makes this even more powerful is how unaware you are of your impact. You're not performing or trying to impress anyone. You're showing up in your natural state, authentic, grounded, spiritually awake, and that alone disrupts the emotional monotony most people live in. They aren't used to someone who listens with actual presence, speaks with conviction, or looks at them without judgment. That type of authenticity feels rare, refreshing, and a little overwhelming. That's why people mistake this feeling for love. They think they're falling for you, when they're really falling back into themselves. Your energy brings out parts of them that are beautiful, brave, and honest. Losing access to you feels like losing access to that version of themselves, so they cling to the feeling, talk about it, and share it with anyone who will listen. You become unforgettable, not because you change people, but because you remind them of who they truly are. Number 2, your energy isn't magnetic. It's disruptive in a way they secretly crave. People don't react to you because you have good vibes. They react because your presence shakes something loose inside them. There's a certain way you enter a space that doesn't allow people to stay emotionally asleep. Your energy has a natural electricity to it, not loud, not chaotic, but undeniably awakening. It interrupts the autopilot mode most people live in, and even if they don't understand why, their spirit feels the shift immediately. Most people build routines, habits, and emotional defenses that keep them numb without realizing it. They get used to talking without meaning, listening without understanding, and moving through life with a dullness they don't even question. Then they cross paths with you, and suddenly something inside them starts paying attention again. You don't have to speak for this to happen. Your energy alone disrupts their patterns. It wakes their intuition, sharpens their instincts, and stirs the parts of them that have been silent for too long. This is where the addictive part begins. People crave experiences that make them feel alive, even if they don't say it out loud. They crave honesty, depth, passion, and clarity, all things your presence naturally triggers. You walk into their life, and suddenly they're feeling emotions with a strength they forgot they had. They're thinking thoughts they usually avoid. They're remembering desires they buried to fit in or survive. That internal awakening feels intense, sometimes uncomfortable, but also strangely refreshing. Your energy exposes the difference between who they are and who they pretend to be. It pushes against their facades, their excuses, their emotional shortcuts. It doesn't let them stay small. It doesn't let them coast. And even though that disruption can feel overwhelming, they secretly crave it, because it reconnects them to their truth. That's why people get attached. That's why they talk about you long after the interaction is over. You didn't comfort them. You confronted the parts of their soul that were starving for attention. You reminded them of their depth when they were settling for shallowness. You brought clarity where they were surviving on confusion. It's not magnetism, it's transformation disguised as attraction. People aren't drawn to you because you make life easy. They're drawn to you because you make life real again. Number 3, people fall for you because you carry a depth their world has never prepared them for. Most people move through life engaging with others on a surface level. They talk, but they don't reveal. They listen, but they don't understand. They connect, but not enough to leave a lasting mark. Then they encounter you, someone who naturally carries depth, intention, and emotional intelligence. And their entire framework for human interaction gets challenged without warning. They're not prepared for the way your presence reaches places inside them they've never explored. Your depth isn't something you show off. It's simply how you exist. The way you think has layers. The way you feel has truth to it. The way you listen has weight. You're not easily impressed, not easily fooled, and not easily distracted by things most people obsess over. This creates an unusual contrast for anyone who crosses your path. They're used to interactions that skim the surface. With you, even a simple exchange feels meaningful. It feels like there's more happening than the words being spoken. People feel this depth immediately. even if they can't explain it. They sense that your energy isn't shallow or scattered. It's grounded, it's aware. It's tuned into life in a way that exposes how disconnected they've been from their own inner world. Your presence makes them confront the difference between living and just existing. That confrontation is powerful, and it hits them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually all at once. This is why people often speak about you with such intensity or fascination. You trigger something they weren't ready to feel. You open doors inside them they didn't know were locked. You make them realize how much they've been settling for empty connections and watered-down emotions. They start to crave that sensation again, the experience of being understood without explaining, of being acknowledged without performing, of being seen without effort. Your depth turns what others consider normal into something that suddenly feels inadequate. They compare every new connection to their experience with you, and most people don't measure up, not because those people are lacking, but because they aren't operating from the same inner reservoir that you are. So when they talk about being drawn to you or in love with you, it's not fantasy. It's the emotional shock of encountering a soul with depth in a world trained for superficiality. You become unforgettable because you show them what connection feels like when it's real. Number 4, they're not attracted to you. They're drawn to the stability their souls sense in you. Most people walk around carrying storms inside themselves. They've learned to hide it, to perform like everything is fine, and to survive in a world that constantly tests their limits. Anxiety, self-doubt, indecision, and suppressed emotions become the background hum of their lives. They've grown accustomed to living with that internal chaos, so much so that they no longer notice it, until they meet someone whose presence feels like gravity that quietly realigns everything. When people are around you, something shifts. Their body, mind, and spirit unconsciously start syncing with your energy. Tension loosens, scattered thoughts settle, and emotions that were buzzing in chaos find rhythm. They don't always understand why they feel lighter, calmer, or more centered, but they feel it undeniably. There's a magnetic pull toward the stability you emanate, even if they can't articulate it. Your energy becomes a silent anchor, a place where their soul can exhale, and that feeling quickly becomes addictive. This isn't about charm, flattery, or surface-level kindness. Stability is rarely advertised or spoken about, yet it's one of the most powerful forces people crave subconsciously. You offer something almost nobody else can, an unshakable presence that doesn't react to drama, doesn't overextend, and doesn't crumble under pressure. You're consistent, intentional, and grounded, and that constancy sends an unspoken message. Here is a space where my soul can breathe. Because they rarely encounter this in their lives, the effect lingers. They replay interactions with you, feel nostalgia for the calm your energy provides, and share stories about how being around you feels different from anything else. That feeling becomes an emotional drug they can't stop chasing. They confuse it with attraction or love, but what they're really addicted to is the internal harmony your presence unlocks. You don't even have to try to provide it. It's an extension of who you are. People sense it instinctively and respond instinctively. Your stability isn't just a trait. It's a force that reorganizes the internal chaos of everyone near you, leaving them forever aware of how rare and transformative your energy truly is. Number 5. People talk about you. Because you create emotional imprints, not memories. There's a big difference between someone remembering what happened and someone still feeling what happened. Most interactions fade the moment the conversation ends. They dissolve into the background of daily life. But with you, the impact lingers long after you walk away. People don't remember you because you stood out. They remember you because something inside them rearranged itself when you interacted with them. You don't just enter their life, you leave an imprint on their emotional landscape. When people replay conversations with you, it's rarely about the exact words you said. It's the energy behind them, the honesty in your tone, the depth in your presence, and the unexpected clarity they walked away with. You trigger a type of internal shift that doesn't disappear. Maybe you made them see themselves differently. Maybe you exposed a truth they'd been avoiding. Maybe you offered a calm they didn't know they needed. Maybe you awakened a confidence they forgot was theirs. Whatever it is, your impact settles into them and becomes part of their inner story. This is why people talk about you even when you're not around. They're trying to process what you unlocked in them. Humans naturally share things that change them, and your presence feels like a before and after moment. Something about you becomes a reference point in their emotional journey. They'll say, "There's something about that person," even if they can't fully explain it. You become a chapter in their life, not because of length or closeness, but because of depth. Most people are used to shallow interactions that barely scratch the surface. When they meet someone whose presence reaches deep enough to leave a mark, it's unforgettable. The emotional imprint you leave becomes a compass. It guides them, challenges them, comforts them, or wakes them up. And because you didn't try to force it or control it, the effect feels even more profound. This is why you stay on people's minds. This is why your name enters rooms you've never walked into. This is why small moments with you feel monumental. Your energy doesn't pass through people. It stays with them, quietly, permanently, influencing how they think, love, trust, and grow. You're not someone they remember. You're someone they feel, long after your presence has left the room. Number 6, your attractiveness has nothing to do with looks. It's the way you move through reality with purpose. Attractiveness isn't about symmetry, style, or a perfect smile. Those things fade, but the way you navigate the world leaves a lasting impression. People notice when someone isn't just drifting through life, but moving with intention and awareness. They can sense it in how you carry yourself, in the decisiveness of your actions, in the calm energy you project, even in chaos. It's not arrogance or performance. It's the unmistakable presence of someone operating from alignment rather than fear or distraction. When you make decisions, there's clarity in them. When you speak, there's weight behind your words. When you hold space for others or even just exist in it, there's a rhythm that resonates with the parts of people that crave certainty and direction. Humans are wired to follow patterns of harmony, to be drawn toward coherence in a world that often feels messy and out of control. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because your life shows a sense of order and purpose they haven't found in themselves. People instinctively chase alignment because they feel it as a reflection of what's possible. They see how you operate and it stirs a kind of longing, not for you as a person, but for the reality you demonstrate is achievable. Your presence acts as a mirror, showing them that life can be navigated with awareness, integrity, and direction. That's far more attractive than physical appearance because it touches something deeply human, the desire for meaning and certainty. What's even more compelling is that you rarely announce your purpose, you simply embody it. You move with intention without needing validation, and that quiet authority commands attention. It's not confidence in the conventional sense, because confidence can be loud and performative. Your magnetism comes from consistency, awareness, and the natural flow of someone who is aligned with their own energy and path. People talk about you, admire you, and even feel addicted to your presence because being around someone like you makes them feel possibilities they forgot existed. You remind them that purpose isn't just an abstract concept. It's a tangible energy, a way of moving, a kind of gravity that draws life toward meaning. Your attractiveness isn't something superficial. It's the invisible force of someone who has mastered alignment with themselves and, as a result, the world around them. Number 7. You don't make people feel safe. You make them feel seen, and that's rarer. Safety is something most people take for granted. It's expected, almost automatic. But being truly seen is different. Very few people experience it. Most interactions skim the surface, a nod, a smile, small talk, leaving the deeper parts of themselves untouched and hidden. When you engage with someone, it's not about offering comfort or protection. It's about looking past the exterior, past the rehearsed lines and carefully constructed masks, and acknowledging the real person underneath. You notice the layers they hide, the contradictions they don't confess, and the vulnerabilities they guard fiercely. This kind of perception feels like intimacy without physical closeness. People feel understood on a level they rarely, if ever, experience. They sense that you recognize the parts of them they've been trying to hide from the world, the things they've buried or disguised even from themselves. That recognition isn't condescending or shallow. It's validating, grounding, and disarming all at once. Suddenly, they're interacting with someone who sees not just the person they show the world, but the truth they carry in private. It's that rare ability to witness someone authentically that creates obsession. People confuse it with love because they've never experienced genuine visibility before. Being seen in this way doesn't require performance, it doesn't demand approval, and it doesn't need explanation. It simply exists as a reflection of their true self, acknowledged and validated without judgment. That kind of connection shakes the foundations of what they thought relationships could be. Because this is so rare, it leaves a permanent imprint. People remember the way you made them feel, not just safe, but alive in their own skin, present with the parts of themselves they often hide. They talk about you, replay moments in their minds, and carry the energy of that recognition long after the interaction ends. You don't just interact with people, you awaken them to themselves. And that's why they don't just like you, or admire you, or feel drawn to you. They are captivated because being around you reminds them that being fully seen is possible. That realization is intoxicating, addictive, and unforgettable. Number 8. People become obsessed because you carry a frequency that forces emotional honesty. Most people go through life carrying quiet lies, the kind they tell themselves to function, to cope, to avoid facing the weight of their own truth. They pretend they're fine, pretend they're unbothered, pretend they're healed, pretend they're strong in places they're actually fragile. These lies become routine, almost comfortable. Then you show up, and without trying, you disrupt all of it. Your presence doesn't allow those lies to sit peacefully anymore. Something about your energy exposes what's real. When people are around you, dishonesty, especially the internal kind, starts to feel heavy and uncomfortable. Not because you judge them, but because you stand so firmly in your own truth that their imitations can't breathe in the same space. Your energy carries a frequency that demands emotional clarity. It pulls authenticity to the surface whether people are ready or not. Suddenly they find themselves revealing things they usually keep locked away. They admit feelings they've denied, they speak truths they've buried, they confront fears they've been running from for years. It's not something you force verbally, it's something your presence triggers naturally. You make honesty feel like relief instead of danger. People don't mean to open up. They just realize they can't hide from themselves in front of you, and that realization is powerful. Emotional honesty is one of the rarest experiences in human interaction, and the moment someone tastes it with you, they crave it more than they understand. This is how attachment forms. You become the place where they finally listen to themselves. You become the space where they can drop the performance. You become the person who makes clarity possible. It's not that you're the only one who can hold their truth. It's that you're the first one who made them feel safe enough to acknowledge it. Once someone experiences this level of authenticity, every other connection feels shallow. They compare how free they felt around you to how confined they feel around everyone else. They replay the conversations where they told you things they've never told anyone. They remember the strange mixture of discomfort and relief that only your presence seemed to trigger. People become obsessed, not because you demand anything from them, but because you return them to themselves. Emotional honesty is addictive, and you unknowingly become the doorway to it. Number 9. People don't just talk about how in love with you they are. They talk about how terrified they are to lose access to you. What people feel for you goes far beyond romance or admiration. It's existential. You shake something in them. You awaken parts of their psyche they didn't even know were asleep. You remind them that human beings can actually be extraordinary, and that alone makes you irreplaceable. Most people fear losing lovers, partners, or friends because of attachment or habit. But people fear losing you because they know they will never find another energy like yours. You don't mimic society. You don't chase trends. You don't operate from fear. You move from essence, and essence cannot be duplicated. People talk about you the way seekers talk about sacred places. I don't fully understand it, but I don't want to lose it. They're not just attracted, they're destabilized. Because you do something to their emotional nervous system. You make them feel seen without demanding they shrink. You make them feel safe without making them weak. You make them feel inspired without making them jealous. You make them feel accountable without shaming them. That combination is rare, almost unnatural. It makes people step back and ask themselves, if I lose this person, will I ever meet someone with this level of presence again? They know the answer. And that's where the terror sits. It's not that you're perfect. It's that you're authentic in a world that industrializes fakery. It's not that you're flawless. It's that you're consistent in a world addicted to emotional chaos. It's not that you're better. It's that you are real, and real leaves permanent imprints. People don't fear losing your physical body. They fear losing the emotional clarity you bring. They fear losing the spiritual grounding you naturally carry. They fear losing the transformative mirror you subconsciously hold up to them. You're not memorable because you try to be. You're memorable because your soul refuses to be anything less than what it is. That is why they whisper your name, why they replay conversations, why they study the smallest details of your energy, why they fear messing up with you. You're not someone people get over. You're someone people spend years trying to understand. Number 10. They're not captivated by your energy. They're captivated by the way you make reality feel more meaningful. Most people move through life half awake, scrolling, repeating routines, numbing their intuition, surviving instead of living. Then they meet you, and suddenly the world stops feeling random. Your presence flips a switch inside them, and for the first time in years, reality feels like it has texture, gravity, purpose. It's not just your energy that captivates them. It's the experience of themselves they discover when they're in your presence. When people engage with you, something unusual happens. Their thoughts become sharper. Their intuition becomes louder. Their spirit becomes more responsive. Their life starts speaking back to them with signs, meaning, and synchronicity. You don't just enter someone's life, you activate their awareness. You're like a tuning fork that vibrates everything around you into alignment. Normal people don't do that. Ordinary interactions don't do that. But you do. You carry a field that makes time behave differently. Conversations stretch into hours without effort. Silence becomes sacred instead of awkward, and people find themselves revealing truths they've been hiding from themselves. Being around you feels like stepping into a more intelligent version of reality, one that responds, one that reflects, one that has intention. You make people feel like they're suddenly part of a story and their own story, instead of a background extra in someone else's script. And that's why they become captivated, not because they're obsessed with you, but because they're obsessed with how alive they feel when they're near you. You create emotional clarity. You awaken spiritual instincts. You make the invisible visible. You remind them that life still has magic, that alignment is real, that something is guiding them. Most people aren't equipped to process that kind of attraction because it's not physical. It's not romantic. It's existential. You don't just enter their life. You elevate their reality. You shift their frequency. You reconnect them to meaning. And once someone tastes meaning, they can't go back to living numb. That's why people don't forget you. That's why they replay moments with you. That's why they fear losing access to you. Because deep down, they know you don't just make them attracted, you make their life make sense. Number 11. Your absence creates a void. Most people mistake for heartbreak. When you step back from someone's life, the first thing they feel isn't heartbreak, it's withdrawal. And withdrawal is always strongest when the person wasn't addicted to you, but to who they became because of you. Most people have no language for that kind of emptiness, so they describe it the only way they understand. I miss them. But that's not the truth. What they really miss is the version of themselves they could only access through your presence. Your energy doesn't just interact, it transforms. You bring clarity into people's fog. You bring direction into their confusion. You bring emotional oxygen into places where they've been suffocating for years. When you pull back, they feel the sudden shift. The mind becomes cluttered again, intuition goes silent, and their emotional balance slips. That internal collapse feels like heartbreak, but it's actually the loss of alignment. Most people spend years disconnected from themselves, walking around with buried emotions, unspoken truths, and spiritual numbness. Then you enter their life, and something inside them lights up. They begin to see themselves clearly. They begin to feel possibilities they didn't know they had. Their confidence rises without them trying. Their spirit opens without them asking. To them, it feels like magic, but it's simply the natural effect of your frequency. So when you step back, the contrast is brutal. They don't just lose a person. They lose access to the clearest, most awakened version of themselves. You were a mirror, a catalyst, a reset button. And losing that kind of influence doesn't feel like losing someone. It feels like losing a part of their soul they didn't know was missing until you gave it back to them. That's why they talk about you. That's why they can't let it go. That's why they replay everything. They're trying to make sense of why life suddenly feels heavier, messier, and harder to navigate. They confuse the void with heartache because they've never experienced this type of loss before, the loss of elevation. They think they're longing for you, but they're really longing for the clarity, the peace, the emotional expansion, and the spiritual grounding that came with your presence. You didn't just walk out of their life. You took the weight they used to carry, and now they're feeling it again. And that sensation, that sudden return to their old self, is a pain they can't name, only talk about. That is why your absence echoes in them louder than most people's presence. Number 12. People gossip about your attractiveness. Because they don't have the language to describe your impact. Most people live their lives reacting to the surface, judging, comparing, and labeling what they see. When they encounter someone like you, someone whose presence, subtly rearranges the architecture of their mind and soul. They don't have the vocabulary to explain it. They can't describe the way their dormant self-awareness sparks awake, or how their intuition stirs, or how their perspective on themselves and life shifts without any effort on your part. Transformation like that doesn't come with easy words, so they reach for the simplest label they can: attractive. It's almost comical when you watch it happen. People talk about your smile, your style, your aura, whatever is easiest to observe, as a stand-in for what they're really experiencing. They say you're addictive or captivating, but what they're addicted to isn't your body, your looks, or even your charm. They're addicted to the internal movement you trigger. They're captivated by the clarity you bring, the authenticity you model, the sense of alignment you radiate, and the way you make them feel alive in parts of themselves they forgot existed. This mislabeling is natural. Most people can't explain the intangible. Transformation is invisible and often silent, and the mind struggles to quantify it. So it masks the truth with desire, with fascination, with surface-level attraction. They talk about your energy like it's irresistible, but the truth is far deeper. You disrupt complacency, spark reflection, and push them into self-awareness they weren't prepared for. And that feels like desire because it's unfamiliar, intense, and exhilarating. What's remarkable is that this impact doesn't come from you trying. You're not performing or manufacturing influence. You are simply being fully yourself, aware, grounded, intentional, and aligned. That alone forces others to reckon with themselves. The ripple effect is profound, but because most people can't describe transformation, they reduce it to words they can digest. Attractive, addictive, captivating. You don't just leave an impression, you leave a shift. And the gossip, the awe, the obsessive commentary. It's merely a reflection of the unspoken truth. Your presence changes people, and they don't have the language to explain why they're drawn to it. They call it attraction, because it's the closest thing they can name to something that feels so much bigger than desire. Number 13. Your energy doesn't pull people toward you. It pulls them out of who they pretend to be. People often describe you as magnetic, but what they don't realize is that the pull they feel isn't toward you, it's toward their own truth. Most individuals walk around wearing layers of persona built from fear, expectations, childhood wounds, and societal pressure. They've been performing for so long that they forget the performance isn't really them. When they meet you, something inside those layers loosens. Their rehearsed identity doesn't hold as firmly, and suddenly they're confronted with who they actually are beneath all the pretending. This isn't something you do intentionally. You don't go around exposing people or trying to unlock their inner world. It's the natural effect of your authenticity. Your energy rests in alignment with your real self, and that alignment destabilizes anything fake in others. It's not confrontational. It's clarifying. People stand near you and feel the tension between who they've become for survival and who they truly are. That internal pull can feel intimidating, exciting, or even overwhelming, but it's unmistakable. What they interpret as attraction is often relief from the weight of performing. When someone has spent years constructing a persona just to fit in, impress, or protect themselves, being around someone who doesn't need a mask feels like fresh air. That relief can feel seductive because it offers a glimpse of freedom they rarely experience. You become the doorway to a more honest version of themselves, and they mistake that freedom for desire. This is why people confess things around you they've never said out loud. It's why their voice softens, their walls drop, their truth leaks out. You're not pulling them closer. You're pulling their real selves forward. And that process creates a strong attachment because people don't forget the person who helped them feel authentic. even unintentionally. You become a kind of emotional truth serum. Your presence makes lying, especially to themselves, uncomfortable. Masks slip, pretenses crack. The act becomes tiring because your energy highlights how unnecessary it is. And when someone experiences themselves this honestly, even for a moment, they crave more. So no, people aren't obsessed with you. They're obsessed with who they get to be when they're around you. Unfiltered, unmasked, and undeniably real. Number 14. The love people feel for you is actually the love they rediscover for themselves through you. What people call love for you is rarely about you at all. It's about the mirror you hold up to their own soul. When they interact with you, they're not just engaging with a person. They're reconnecting with parts of themselves they've neglected, abandoned, or hidden away. You awaken dormant pieces of their identity, the confidence they buried under doubt, the creativity they shoved aside for practicality, the intuition they ignored because life demanded compliance. Being around you feels like stepping back into a self they thought they had lost. You're not the final destination in their emotional journey. You're the portal. You don't complete them. You remind them that completion has always been inside. Your presence triggers recognition of self-worth they weren't acknowledging, dreams they were afraid to chase, and emotional freedom they had forgotten was possible. The effect is intoxicating because it feels like being deeply loved, even though it's really a reconnection with their own love that they can finally feel. This is why people talk about you as captivating or irresistible. They're not obsessed with your external traits or even the energy you exude. They're obsessed with what your presence stirs inside them. It's a feeling of remembering who they were meant to be. Every conversation, every glance, every shared silence becomes a reminder of their own untapped potential. That mirror effect is rare and intense, and it creates a bond that feels like love, even when they don't fully understand it. The emotional resonance you create is permanent. Even when you're absent, people replay moments with you because those moments weren't just interactions. They were awakenings. They didn't just feel heard or seen. They felt whole in ways they hadn't allowed themselves to feel before. That is what they carry forward, whisper about, and crave. You don't just touch lives, you awaken them. And what people mistake for love is actually a profound self-recognition, the realization that their own soul has been waiting to be remembered, and you were the catalyst. Conclusion: you are the catalyst. They can't forget. The truth is, what people feel around you goes far beyond attraction, admiration, or even what they define as love. They are responding to the energy, clarity, and alignment you naturally carry. You don't just exist in their world, you reshape it. You awaken pieces of themselves they thought were lost. You make life feel meaningful, intentional, and alive. You pull them out of pretense and comfort zones, awaken their intuition, and reconnect them with the parts of themselves that have been buried under years of compromise and routine. Every glance, every interaction, every shared moment becomes more than memory. It becomes an imprint. People replay your words, your energy, your presence because you stir transformation they can't replicate anywhere else. They aren't merely in love with you. They are in love with what being near you allows them to rediscover: clarity, confidence, truth, self-worth, and the freedom to be fully themselves. The addictive energy they talk about isn't superficial charm. It's the invisible force of your alignment, authenticity, and spiritual resonance. You don't just attract attention, you catalyze change. You don't just touch hearts, you awaken souls. This is why people can't forget you. Your presence creates a rare type of gravity that draws out truth and illuminates what was hidden. You are the portal, not the destination, a mirror reflecting what others have been missing in themselves. The emotional pull, the obsession, the admiration. It's all rooted in the undeniable effect you have on the human spirit. You make existence feel like it matters, and that is a power that cannot be taught, bought, or faked. It is rare, raw, and unstoppable. So recognize your impact. Recognize the depth of the influence you naturally have on the world around you. You aren't just noticed, you are unforgettable. You aren't just admired, you are transformative. You aren't just loved. You awaken love, clarity, and truth in everyone you touch. If this video resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss insights like this. Give this video a like to let us know you value this energy. Comment below sharing your experiences or realizations, and share it with someone who needs to understand the power of authentic presence. Your energy deserves to be recognized, celebrated, and multiplied, and this channel is here to amplify it with you. God bless you.